Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, whether you're joining me from the present or the future. Welcome back to another FutureFight Vanguard video. My name is Josh, and welcome back to another video, another FutureFight Vanguard series. Today we're going to be starting our V-EB10 set. This set is called The Mysterious Fortune. So V-EB10, The Mysterious Fortune. This set contains Great Nature, Gold Paladin, and Neo Nectar. So we're going to be starting this and then continuing it on Monday, because my videos are going to be every day, Monday through Friday from now on, at least until we're caught up or I figure out some other series to do or something like that. But we're going to get right into it. If you guys haven't already, be sure to leave a like on the video. Thumbs up helps the videos a lot. Be sure to comment down below letting me know what you think of the deck or the video, or if you have your own deck, to give advice to other people, because after all, the point of this series is to help other people learn the decks and learn what they do. Also, be sure to check out our second channel, which is Let's Plays Animes, down in the description down below. And also be sure to check out those channel memberships using the join button that is underneath next to my channel button below as well, next to the subscribe button, if you haven't or if you have or haven't already subscribed. But with that being said, let's get right into the deck. So obviously today we're going to be talking about Great Nature. Nothing really especially new that got added to Great Nature in this set. Is still just the mechanic of milling a card, the lottery as you call it. So you mill a card, and if it's a normal unit or a trigger unit, then you activate certain effects based off of what you milled. So let's get started with the deck. So we have 4 of our new VR in the deck, which is Holy Great Sage of Black Shadows Isabel. So Isabel is a really great card to have on Vanguard. I actually prefer it being on Vanguard over Leopold most of the time, just because like you can do so much stuff when Isabel's actually on the Vanguard. Especially because Binoculus Tiger just becomes really incredibly strong, and so does Monoculus Tiger when you're on Isabel, because you do get both of their effects. But let's go through Isabel's effects. It has 2 effects. The first one is a continuous Vanguard effect that says if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you perform both of the effects perform any effect that says perform one of the effects. So then its secondary effect is actually one of those effects. So it says Vanguard Rearguard when placed, Soul Blast 1, put the top card of your deck into the drop zone, and then you can perform one of the effects based on the card's type that you milled. So if you milled a normal unit, this card gets plus 15k power, and if you milled a trigger unit, then you return the card put from your deck in the drop zone by this effect into your hand. So basically what happens when your opponent's on grade 3 and you can activate both of the effects is you mill the card, and no matter what, you will get to bounce the card to your hand. However, if that card is a normal unit, you will also get plus 15k power. So really, really cool. Moving on to our next grade 3, we have 4 School Hunter Leopold. Leopold, even though we prefer Isabel over it, it's still good enough to run at 4. Obviously super good in matchups where they bounce your board back to your deck, or retire your board, or just control in general. It helps you get your field back, helps you maintain game state and maintain advantage. So its 2 effects is, the first one is a continuous Vanguard ability that says if you have a grade 3 in your soul, this unit's auto abilities activates 2 times. So its when placed abilities will activate 2 times as well. So basically, since it only activates for itself, basically it means that if you ride this card over a grade 3, whether that be Isabel or Leopold or any other grade 3 that we run, then we can actually activate the second ability twice. And the second ability is on Vanguard. When it's placed, put the top card of your deck into the drop zone and perform one of the effects depending on what you milled. So if you milled a normal unit, you can look at the top 4 cards of your deck and call up to 2 grade 2 or less cards from among them to rearguard. And if you milled a trigger unit, this unit gets plus 15k and a crit. Now, for me, preferably, I always rather mill a normal unit when Leopold comes into play, because I want to fill my board if I'm playing Leopold. If I'm just getting the 15k and a crit, usually my opponent has a PG and it doesn't really matter usually. But in some cases it does matter, so in some cases you appreciate it. But other than that, I just want to fill my board. So I just hope that both mills are going to be normal units, and that when I check the top 4, it's going to be lots of grade 2s or less, because we can't call grade 3s to the board from Leopold's effect. Then for our last grade 3 in the deck, we run 1 Heavy Brain Molmodon. I actually really like this card in the deck because it's a great finisher. It's basically like an innately built-in front trigger for your front row. So after you just build up your front row and your units and stuff like that, you can ride Molmodon and try to go for game. And sometimes it's just very, very good to do that, especially if you've ridden to grade 3 twice, so you can just do this skill twice in a turn. Like, you can make your front row get plus 20k, or you can choose to separate it among different turns. Like, it's really up to you. Your opponent also cannot intercept when you use the skill, so it's activation during the main phase, counter blast 1, soul blast 1, grade 3, and then until the end of the turn, your whole front row gets plus 10,000, and your opponent cannot intercept. So obviously really good against like Melody, things that intercept for really big, like Fina, the Melody deck. You also have, you know, it's just really good against all decks because you can't intercept, which not all decks intercept for big, but all decks like intercept at some point. And it makes it so that when they're at 5 damage, like they truly can't do anything about their rear guard, so they have to guard you with pure hand, which can come in handy a lot of times because even the difference in 5k shield could lose them the game. So just a really good tech card that we like to run. Then for our grade 2s, we have 12 grade 2s, starting off with our first one, which is 4 Binoculus Tiger. This card has been a staple since the first Great Nature set came out, and it continues to be a staple because it's just too good not to run. This card's effect is when it's on Vanguard or Rearguard and it attacks a Vanguard, you can counterblast 1 and then put the top card of your deck into the drop zone and perform one of the effects based off of what you milled. So if you milled a normal unit, you draw a card. If you milled a trigger unit, then you can choose one of your opponent's Rearguards, retire it, and then 3 of your units in the front row get plus 5,000 power. So this card becomes so good when Isabel's on the field because you get to do all that just by using counterblast 1 Binoculus skills. So when you counterblast 1 when Isabel's on the field and your opponent's on grade 3, you get to draw a card, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, and 3 units in your front row get plus 5k. So it's one of the best effects in the game that you can have for counterblast 1. I just think it's really, really solid and really good, so you should not be running this card at 4. Moving on, we have 4 Hamske's Rivals, Red, Blue Pencil, Hamhiko. So what Hamhiko does is it has 2 Vanguard Rearguard abilities. The first one is when placed on Vanguard or Rearguard, Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1. Look at the top 2 cards from your deck and put a card from among them into your hand and put 1 card into your drop zone. And the secondary ability is Vanguard Rearguard once per turn. When your card is put from your deck into the drop zone, then you may have this unit get plus 5,000 power into the end of the turn once per turn. So this card's second ability actually procs off of its first ability, even though it doesn't seem like a mill. You're still putting a card from deck into drop zone because when you look at the cards from the top of your deck, they're still considered in your deck. So when you put 1 into your hand, you're putting 1 from deck into hand, and then you're putting 1 from deck into drop zone. So the second ability actually procs off the first, and then beyond that, when it's on the field for the rest of the game, or you know however long it's on the field, you can actually just proc it off of any mill that you would do. So off of Binoculus Tiger, off of Isabel, off of Monoculus Tiger, stuff like that. So continuing on, we have 4 Barcode Zebra. Has a pretty simplistic skill, but it ends up being one of the best cards in the deck. When it's on the rearguard circle, when a card is put into drop zone from your deck, this unit gets plus 5,000 power. So literally just Hamhiko skill, but it's not once per turn, meaning that Barcode Zebra can go up to huge numbers depending on how many times you've used the mill effects in the turn. Moving on to our grade 1s, we have 12 grade 1s. We have 4 Monoculus Tiger to start off with. It has a Vanguard Rearguard ability that says when it attacks or boosts a rearguard. Very important because a lot of people seem to think that this card can boost a Vanguard and use its ability. It cannot, so do not think that, or do not let your opponent get away with that if they're trying to use that against you. But when it attacks or boosts a rear guard, Soul Blast 1, and you can mill the top card of your deck, which is put it from deck into drop zone. And then depending on what kind of unit you milled, whether it's a normal unit or trigger unit, you do 2 different things. If you milled a normal unit, your opponent cannot call Sentinels to guard this attack. Whether the attack that it's boosting or the attack that it's attacking. Your opponent cannot call Sentinels if you milled a normal unit, and if you milled a trigger unit, then your opponent can only call trigger units from their hand to guard the attack. So basically what this means is when you're on Isabel and you use this card, not only can your opponent not guard with Sentinels, but they can only guard with triggers, meaning that they have to have the exact trigger count. Like sometimes the attack, this is like a Barcode Zebra attack boosted by Binoculus, and it's just really, really big, hard for your opponent to guard. And if they don't have zeros in their hand, but they just have like 9 cards in their hand and they're all grade 1s or something like that, then the attack is unblockable for them because they have to guard with trigger units thanks to Monoculus's effect. So a very, very, very good card. Then we have 4 Scale Toucan. We rarely ever use the first ability, not gonna lie to you guys, but the second ability gets used quite a bit just because it can be sitting on the board and just gain power for doing what the deck does. So the first ability is when on rearguard, when it's placed from hand, Soul Blast 1 and return one of your other rearguards to hand. The only real rearguards that we care about bouncing to hand and calling back is like Hamhiko, because it's the only one with an on-place ability that we can just activate, you know, per putting back, or, you know, another Scale Toucan that we want to bounce, but then that would require like another unit that we want to bounce as well. And Soul is kind of already used in this deck for Hamhiko and Molmodon, so we really want to be careful with our soul usage. So we don't really use it for that skill, that first skill a lot, but the second skill, it gets used a lot, which is Vanguard Rearguard once per turn. When your card is put from deck in a drop zone, you may have this unit get plus 5,000 power until the end of the turn. So literally just the exact same skill as Hamhiko and Barcode Zebra, except it's just like Hamhiko where it's once per turn. Then, rounding out our grade 1s, we have 4 Tank Mouse. So what Tank Mouse does is on the rearguard circle once per turn, when a card is put from your drop zone into your deck, put into your drop zone from your deck, counterbalance 1, and you may return the card that was put into your drop zone to your hand. And you may only return 1 card even if several cards were put at the same time. So the reason that this clause in parentheses is there is because when you use skills like Leopold, you have to finish out all of Leopold's skill before you move on to another skill. And that's just how Vanguard works. You always have to finish out one skill before you have another skill that activates, even if the skills activate at the same time. So technically when you mill the first card off of Leopold, Tank Mouse would trigger, but you also have to mill that second card off of Leopold before you're able to choose what you want to get with Tank Mouse. However, since Tank Mouse procced twice, you're also able to choose which one of those cards that you want to be able to get back from Tank Mouse. So that's really, really good and really important. Then for our starter, we have 1 Jet Ink Fox. This is just a new starter that allows us to draw a card when it's ridden upon. We have 8 front triggers, 4 draw triggers, and 4 heal triggers. Our front triggers being 4 Correction Chinchilla, 2 Alarm Chicken, 2 Castanet Donkey, 4 Cable Sheep for our draws, and 4 Dictionary Goat for our heals. So that was the deck portion of the video, and we're going to get right into the games here. Loading up Great Nature Game 1. We almost caused ourselves to have an error there because you guys know how Cardfight area is. I talked about it in my last video. So this game we're playing against Murakumo. This is pre-ban list, of course, so, you know, Shiryuki's still in effect of being at 4, so if you guys see that, don't freak out. This was recorded before that time. But our opponent rides a grade 2, gets a draw trigger. We also get a draw trigger. We take 2 damage, and we have a really strong opening turn 2 because we have 2 Binoculus Tigers on the board. We mill a trigger, allowing us to get rid of his Jakotsu Girl and allowing us to give +5 to our front row, which stacks with our Barcode Zebra because, you know, we're able to do that. Also, when we milled, it's important to notice that we use Tank Mouse to get the card that we milled back, just to get a little shield into our hand. Our opponent has kind of a terrible hand because he only played a draw trigger and a Shiryuki. We take 1 damage. We go for our turn, and we go for Accel 2 because in case he Hyugas our board back, we want to build some hand advantage so that we can call a board back from hand if necessary, because we also haven't seen our Leopold until just now. So we do check a front trigger, and then we do attack him for 34, and then he tries to guard, but it's not enough shield because he has 32. And then he PGs our first attack, but then our second attack is Monoculus Tiger, and since it's a grade 3, he has that restriction of not being able to, even if it wasn't too big, he only has 1 trigger in his hand, and he would only be able to guard this with triggers, and he can't guard it with a PG, and that's why he used the PG for this skill and not this skill, because he was hoping to heal 6 damage heal on that last damage. So as you guys can see, very, very strong. We killed him like literally on the first grade 3 turn that we had, so very quick game there. But his hand was also kind of clunky with grade 3s, but that's also just how Murakumo works. So we're playing against game 2. We're playing against the same Murakumo player because he wanted a rematch, as usual when you beat someone, you know. So our opponent rides Spellhound, doesn't use the skill, and decides to attack and checks a heal, healing a damage. We start with the same opening that we did, so we mill a trigger again, and we get rid of his rearguard again. We attack for 19. And then we attack for 20, and he blocks it. He rides Shiryuki again, making us go -10 once again. And then he calls the Shiryuki grade 1 and Spellhound in a grade 1. This time he goes for our rearguards because he notices that it's our rearguards that killed him last time, and he needs to be able to sustain until he can do something useful. So this time we just call back a board. We attack with Leopold. Our opponent no guards. We do check a heal, but we don't heal because we're not at less damage than him. So we attack his rear guards this time because we're not able to hit Vanguard. He rides Hyuga, goes for Hyuga's skill, or sorry, he goes for Hayaki first to call another Hayaki. Then he goes for Hyuga to counterbalance 1, call a card. And then, yeah, he uses his Vanguard skill to Soul Blast a grade 3, and then we shuffle. He no-hits Vanguard. I shuffled. Okay, I thought I forgot to shuffle, but when his attack didn't hit, he added that Shiryuki back to his hand, so he actually has 4 Shiryukis in his hand right now, We take the last 2 attacks. We actually ride Isabel so that we can get some pluses and advantage. We end up calling Hamhiko, and we call Tank Mouse first, knowing that we could get it back. And then we're just going to not really commit that hard. So I think I just attack him here for 33. He no guards. I check a Leopold and a front trigger. Then I attack him for 29, and he blocks with a heal. He rides another HYU-GA, plays a Sensual Arrestor in the back row. So then he attacks us for 9 with no hit because he has no possibility to hit Shiryuki. He soul charges. Then he attacks, no hit again because I blocked it. No chance for Shiryuki because all 4 are in his hand, so he soul charge. He attacks us for 12. We 2 to pass that. He doesn't check any triggers. We check a heal on defensive, so he can't really attack us anymore. We use Isabel's skill, and we get a barcode zebra, so we play the zebra, and then we play the Hamhiko. And then again, we're trying not to commit that hard, so we just attack him for 33. He does PG. We check a front trigger, so we attack him for 29, and then he takes 1 of the damage. He rides HYU-GA again. He goes for HYU-GA's Vanguard skill again, counterboss 1, call a grade 3. And then he sends our cards back to our deck, which of course is only helping us because, you know, we still have our Leopolds. So he attacks us for 9, not being able to hit. So he has no more Shiryuki. So obviously, you know, the soul charge procs. He attacks for 12. We check a defensive heal trigger, and we guard for 2 to pass on his Vanguard. He attacks us, and he's not able to hit us with anything for the rest of the turn. We go for Leopold, and we mill 2. Like I said, we're able to call a board because, you know, Leopold's just that good against decks like this. So we attack for 18. He PGs. We don't check any triggers. We attack for 14, milling a card and drawing a card or whatever. And the funny thing is, we would have decked out at this point already if he hadn't been doing HYU-GA on us for so long. But that's the cool thing, is that he has been doing HYU-GA against us, so he keeps like returning cards to our deck. So it's kind of like a plus and a weakness when you're fighting against Great Nature and you're playing Kumo. It's like you really just don't want to help them out, but you're helping them out anyways. So we 2 to pass his Vanguard again. We survive his rear guards. We ride Isabel again. We get the barcode zebra, and we play the Hamhiko. We attack him for 27. And then he uses his skill of Shiryuki twice for a no pass. We do check double no triggers, so none of our attacks hit. And then he attacks us for 9. We intercept. He soul charges. And then he attacks us. We PG. And then we no guard his Vanguard in the hopes that we could get a heal or something like that. But I don't believe I had any more heals left. I had 1, 2, and then 3, 4. Yeah, so the other 2 were in my drop zone, so I just had no chance of actually surviving. So I just said GG to him. And we almost won, but we needed to check a front trigger in some of those last turns, and we just didn't. So we just lost that game. But loading up Great Nature Game 3, we're playing against Dark Irregulars this time, which should be, you know, ideally a good matchup for us because it's a Protect clan, and they usually kind of lose to Accel because it's just hard to keep up with their advantage and the amount of attacks they have. So he attacks us for 6k and then 8k. He does check a trigger to pass us, and then we just ride and attack him, get a draw trigger. He gets a draw trigger too, so this is actually a very good start for him. He's able to ride Emblem Master, get his engine off, and have Killer Tail on board. I don't know why in turn 1 he didn't just ride Alluring Succubus and play Killer Tail, because I feel like that would have been a better engine. But we ride Isabel, and because he's at grade 2, we can't really like get much done because we don't really have like good rear guards like that. However, we are at 4 damage already, so it's like kind of meh. He does use the skill of Killer Tail to call a card. You know, he uses the skill of Ruthven, put a card to soul, and then we 2 to pass him. He does check a crit, and then he uses the skill of Number of Terror to put a card in and draw 2. We use the skill, and as you guys can notice, this time we went Accel 1 because we're not against a deck that returns cards to our deck by any way, shape, or form, so we don't want to really deck out. So we attack him for 33. He no guards. He does get a defensive trigger, so we attack his rear guard for 14, and we attack his Vanguard and rear guard in, you know, waves, just attacking what we can attack. He does ride No Life King, and he decides to attack us for 14, which we take. It is another Leopold, which is unfortunate. We do PG, and then he checks a crit and a heal using No Life King skill to put a bunch of cards in, and then he rides Brufus. Brufus skill retires our Zebra, and then we 2 to pass it. Thankfully, he didn't check any triggers there, so we can just guard. We ride another Isabel. We mill a Isabel, so we get an Isabel back to our hand. Our Ham Hiko and our Zebra both get plus power. And then we attack for 22, and then we attack for 24. He rides another Brufus. Thank God he didn't have another No Life King, because that would have been really bad for us. He uses the skill of Hope on Domp, which is also kind of bad for us, because we have to guard with exactly 20k shield whenever we do guard. So he attacks for 12. We intercept, because that doesn't apply to intercepting. And then we guard with exactly 20k shield for a 2 to pass. And then we guard with exactly 20k shield to guard his number of terror attacks. So we ride another Isabel, get a Zebra. We play the Zebra, and we move our Tiger up. And then we check 2 cards. Again, not triggers. So we attack for 19. And then he rides another Death Anchor. Plays another Hope on Domp with his skill being active. And this time we're just pretty sure that we can't block it. So we intercept that. We have to take the Vanguard, hoping that we'll heal. And then he gets a critical trigger, so we do not heal. So unfortunately, we lost that last game 3, but we kind of got a slow start and almost no rear guards for like the entire game. We could have rode Molmoden at one point just to kind of help out, but I was planning on doing that the turn after, assuming that I survived. And I think I might have survived if he didn't have that Hope on Domp both turns, but yeah, what can you do? It's a card game. It's Vanguard. But yes, that has been the video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this Friday video. If you guys did, be sure to leave a like on the video. Like I said, leave a comment letting me know how your life's going through coronavirus and how it's affecting your local card shops and stuff like that. For me, I haven't been able to go to any locals for like 2 weeks, so this has been pretty rough on me. But I'm able to get content done in the meanwhile, so that's the upside of it. So we're looking at the bright side here. But yeah, check out our second channel and check out that join button for our channel memberships down below. But with that being said, this has been Josh from Cardfight Empire, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace, guys.